Hey, what's up, y'all? We're back here again for another week. I say again, you're just like, oh, it's just kind of like the standard run-of-the-mill schedule-ish that we have going on here. I say again because this is my third time recording this episode. The first time, honestly, it wasn't as organized and thought and process and energy as I wanted it to be. And the second time it was complete technical issues. I recorded, I thought it went amazing, and then I got done and it was nothing but this like the old school kind of static, not the black and white, but like the multi-colored static screen with no audio the whole time. I have no idea why. I did a full audio and video check right before recording it, and then that didn't pan out. So we're back here round 3. Which is why this is going to be coming out a little bit later and off schedule. But I still wanted to do it. There was no way I wasn't going to do it. And I very easily, because I still had the recording from the first one, I very easily could have picked up on that. It did get cut off, so I would have had to finish recording it anyway. It got cut off in the middle by a very important phone call. But I decided not to do that because I wanted to bring in the right energy, and I now, having redone this a couple of times and getting ready to do it a third time, I feel like my thoughts are even more clear, and it'll be not more more concise, more clear, and I think it's just going to be better. I think it's going to be, just like iterations of improvement. I don't think that I've hit the point of losing the return kind of on time, right? Where, like, what I mean is, there is a certain amount, like, we talk about improvement and you can keep getting better, but you think about like one project, there's a point of diminishing returns, right? Where you're investing so much time and energy into this thing that the time, it gets to a certain point where it's like, it is definitely good enough, and expending a significant amount more time on it versus calling it good, getting it out there, and then moving on to the next one. The benefit of time versus improvement, that balance, that scale starts to lean more towards the time and less towards the improvement, and get into the sense of like perfectionism and stuff like that. And so thinking about the fact that we just came off of I had just discussed kind of the job interviews that I had gone through recently, and how they went really well, and how I believe that it's really important to kind of add that stress in to your life, not specifically like the stress of being interviewed, but adding stressful events in. If your life is if it's been a while since you've felt like anxious and nervous, and you've had to kind of figure out how to gain a sense of control over yourself and have a conversation in your mind about the situation at hand, then I think you're doing yourself a disservice. And I think when those times come up, and this was kind of the point of the last show, I think when those times come up out of your control, which they will, your ability to manage them is going to be significantly degraded versus what it would be if you're actively adding these stressors into your life. And an interview is a great way to do that, especially if you have the time, and ability to go and just do interviews, even if you're in a job that you love. Like, it's really interesting because it puts yourself into a position of not being in control, right? You are kind of at the mercy of the people who are being interviewed. But the cool thing is, when you're going in and you don't need the job, then you maintain more control than you do otherwise. And you get to see what's out there, you get to communicate with people about other positions, and really you get to take a closer look at yourself and who you are, and really do an assessment. Because it's hard for us to do a self-assessment. If I encourage you guys and I recommend that you sit down and you do a self-assessment. It's kind of hard to do that, but that's essentially what you're doing when you're building a resume, when you're preparing for an interview, is you're self-assessing. I mean, you should be really working on that intro, the introduction of who you are. And even if you just did that, you spent time each week kind of in that mindset of, okay, if I met somebody and they're like, hey, well, tell me a little bit about yourself. How do you answer that question, right? It's very interesting. I don't want to go too deep into what we already covered in the last episode, on the Walk with Matt episode, where we're outside, which I'm super happy we're not out there today, because if I could flip this camera around, outside there's a window right behind this camera, and it is nasty. We lost power a couple of times last night. It's flickered a couple of times getting ready for the recording for the show today right now. And it was downpouring rain. We're having lightning storms, and it's been really cool. But I'm very happy that today's not the outside show day, because that would be a little bit brutal. I'd do it, maybe. The wind issues, technical when you think about it. But anyway, I digress. The one last thing I did want to mention about that Walk with Matt episode on the walk, where we talked about adding in stress and how creating stress really improves your life. That episode brought this channel to over 500 subscribers, and that's incredible. A lot of people, when they think about YouTube or social media and stuff like that, they think that you're gonna create videos that people are automatically gonna love, and everyone's gonna see it, and everyone's gonna flock to it, and you're gonna go viral, and you're gonna get tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of subscribers. And with the competition for attention being what it is a slog fest, right? Right now, it is not. I mean, some people, you still see people go viral, but even the people that go viral, it's not common necessarily that you see that virality sustained, right? It's not a sustainable thing. Oh, they had this one hit. You have all these people that are there and are prominent and have all of these subscribers now and have these hugely popular shows, that it's you think that it's either easy or you think it's unattainable. It's oftentimes the top for both of it. And you don't really go back and look at what it took to get to that level, right? To get to the point of where they're at. There was some of it is very conscious, very deliberate, very disciplined work that it takes over time and consistency, developing your brand. And I hate that term, because it's, when it comes to like personal stuff, and I get it and it makes sense. It's so overplayed now that it kind of hits people the wrong way. So when I said personal brand right there, what I mean is your persona, like who you are. It takes a while to develop that, have it sustained, and have it in a way that people kind of understand and can connect with over time. And so, man, I'll tell you what, a stink bug just flew across the room. These things, they're treacherous, man. They're stinky, but I'll take care of him later. Anyway, I just wanted to say thank you to everyone who is coming to the channel, and how the growth continues to expand. And it's really, really cool, because it seems like a lot of the additions are coming from outside of the United States, which is where I was born and raised and where I currently live. And I've been blessed to be able to travel around the world and be exposed and experience many different cultures, which is phenomenal. But I've never lived overseas. So to be able to connect my purpose and my message to people who are not in the same culture, not in the same region, I think that's really special. So I just want to say, like, thank you. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you coming and being a part of this. I'm glad that you find value here, and I hope that today you find a great amount of value as well. So what I wanted to get into today, as you could probably tell by the thumbnail or the graphic that you saw that that brought you into the show, especially if you're new. If you're new, thank you. Thank you for coming in and continuing to expand this group. As you can see, where the growth is there, and it's wonderful. And so, thank you again. But today, I have it, and you can kind of see like the pursuit of happiness. And for anyone that is in the United States or anyone that's familiar with the kind of founding of the United States, that's in our Declaration of Independence, right? But I go there, and you might hear me kind of go back to thought processes and the thought leaders of the time and kind of the philosophy that came with those individuals who stood up the colonies that would eventually turn into the United States of America. I love that period of time. I romanticize it to no end, and that's okay. Like I don't romanticize it to the point of like, oh, life was so much more simple back then. I wish I could go back. Like, no. I love being in this room and looking outside and seeing the wind blow by and not feeling it cut through the logs of the houses that are stacked together with mud packed in between them, and just having heat on right now and being able to speak into this microphone and be able to talk into this camera and be able to share my thoughts and these skills and strategies of resilience and mindset to the world. So as much as I romanticize it and I love that period, love learning and thinking about that period of time, in no way, shape, or form would I want to live in any other time than we're living in right now. That said, I feel like everything that I have here is kind of stems from their thoughts and beliefs, right? They established the culture and what the culture of this country would be. And it's been historically a kind of shining example of what is possible if you see value in living in with this type of culture. If you embrace these values, this is kind of what is possible. There's good and bad and ugly on all parts of it. Don't get it twisted. But today I want to focus on some good, and I want to give my input on some of the good and how it relates to us and how we operate in our day-to-day lives and how it can be helpful. So we hold these truths to be self-evident. That's a great, powerful way to lay out like a proclamation of firm beliefs. We hold these truths to be self-evident. Like, they don't need explanation. I don't need to tell you why. It's self-evident why they're there. And they go on to say that all humans should be secured in their rights and their ability to maintain life, like to not be killed without by any person. You have the right to live, right? You have the right to liberty, right? And so liberty is like a version of freedom. In the way that I've always understood it, it's the version of freedom that is specifically from government, right? So it's liberty is like freedom with a tie-in of the perspective of your government. So I have freedom from you. We are not like, you don't have control over my life, which you could say in this day and age, who knows how well that's holding up, but we're not here to discuss that. And then it says in the pursuit of happiness, and not to go into too much crazy historical lessons here. No one's here for that. But it wasn't originally written that way. It was written about property. And I think that it was a smart shift to go to pursuit of happiness, especially as, one, for the time, because not everyone was property owners. And then also moving forward, and there are less and less property owners, and it's a different thing. Like, there's a lot of renters, a lot of people that are mobile. And so I think pursuit of happiness makes sense because you can pursue happiness without really having to focus on property in the same way and have it at the same level of value that they had back then, right? Like, property was huge then. It's hard to imagine how, like, the percentage of the population of people whose livelihood was tied to their property, right? Like, If you weren't growing crops and you weren't selling crops, that was a huge part of it, right? And if you weren't helping somebody do that, like that was how a lot of people made their livelihoods. It's how they survived. It's how they helped other people survive. So property was a really big deal. But then, what I really wanted to do was to focus on what they actually ended up deciding to go with, the edits, the revision of the Declaration of Independence to what it is and what we all know it is now, and the pursuit of happiness. And I think that phrase, the entirety of that phrase, the 3 words are very powerful, and I'll kind of give you my tidbit on all of it. When we think about the pursuit of happiness, well, okay, if we're pursuing happiness, we have to understand kind of, what is happiness? Like, what is that? What does it mean? And I think that there's so many thoughts and considerations about this, but if you think about happiness as an emotion, we have a lot of emotions. I think there's 7 that are accepted, and they are happiness, sadness, contempt, disgust. Let me just pull it up real quick so I don't lose any. Anger, disgust, fear, joy. Did I say neutral? Are you for real right now? Apparently. So anger, disgust, fear, joy, neutral, sadness, and surprise are, at just a quick glance, I don't know if that's the latest understanding, but from what I gather and what I can kind of recall from some of the classes that I've taken, that sounds about right. I don't remember neutral, but I suppose, I don't know, that's weird. It seems like a weird emotion. Neutral? I guess, yeah, if you don't have a particular feeling about something happens and you're like, yeah, whatever. Like, I guess that can be kind of neutral. So, right on. so those are the 7, right? And what is our life but running reel of these emotions? Right? Well, like, there's never a time when you're not experiencing one of those. It's like you're in a constant state of one of those emotions, especially with neutral being there. that really helps cover a lot of the middle ground spots. But what I want, if you think about the fact that it's on a reel, and we're never stuck in one, as angry or as sad or as scared as you've been or disgusted as you've been, it is not possible for you to remain in that emotional state forever. I mean, it's not possible for you to stay in that emotional state for an extended period of time. Even if you're really mad about something and you're like, and you are, say you're in a fight with your spouse, and you guys go to sleep angry, like even during that period of anger, like your mind is gonna be constantly working, and then it's going to veer away from that. It's not likely that you're gonna be holding on to that for 4 or 5 hours continuous going into bed, and then wake up and then instantly go and just stay in this place of anger. Other things are going to be happening. They're going to be spurring more emotions, and it's one of the things that I was thinking about, where what is an emotion other than a reaction to the world and the stimulus around us, right? If you think about if we shift this and we focus on the emotion that we're talking about today, we focus on happiness. At what points in your life were you the most happy? At what points in your life were you happy at all? And because to me, there's grades to this. There's levels. There's layers to happiness. Happiness is not you are happy or you are not happy. Like you are happy or you are one of the other 6. It's within each emotion there are degrees, right? There are flavors. And so, I mean, I could be happy that I wake up and my dogs come out and they're like shaking their tails and they're looking at me and they're all super excited, and I'm like, oh my god, it's so good. Hello, hey Bodie, how you doing? Let's go. I'm halfway expecting my dog to run in the room now. But I'm happy then. And then if I have a bowl of ice cream, like I'm eating it, I'm telling you what, I'm certainly not disgusted. Like, not if it's good, not if it's not expired. I'm feeling pretty good. I'm feeling pretty happy. And then you think about that same kind of emotion when you accomplish something that was difficult. Think about like a big project that you had at work, something you were trying to get done around the house, like trying to build something. Maybe you added a deck on yourself. Maybe you refloored the inside. Maybe you put up drywalls. Maybe you painted the house. Maybe it was something physical. Maybe it was something like you started a diet and you worked on yourself and you lost 20 pounds. Maybe you were aspiring to accomplish some sort of physical feat, like running a marathon. Maybe you were, had to give up and give a public speech, and you were really nervous, and you went up there and you did it. Even if you did it poorly, even if you ran the marathon poorly, even if you gave the public speech poorly, like you still did it. You still went up there and did it, and there is a sense of happiness that comes with the completion of it, especially the sense of completion of it if it didn't go well, but also if you did go well, then there's a greater sense of happiness, right? There are grades, there are degrees, and there are also degrees when it comes to the task at hand. Like what does it take of me to get up in the morning and let my dogs out? What does it take of me to get up and grab a bowl of ice cream? Not a lot, right? What does it take of me to refloor the house? Oh, a little bit. I have to understand, to learn some stuff. I have to understand some stuff, and I got to put the time in to tear it up, clean it up, lay the floor, make sure everything's level and good. What does it require of me to run that marathon? What does it require of me to start my own business? What does it require me to even within somebody else's business to go up the ranks, and get to a spot of respectable, what I consider to be a respectable position that I enjoy and I have a large impact in. It's these all require different things. Some of them are very short term, some of them are longer term, and it really, you have to think about it. When we get to that spot, even when we complete the speech, even when we finish the marathon, even when we're done with the floor, it's not that happiness feeling that still doesn't sustain. It does not endure, right? And so that is where it kind of comes into our danger zone of the pursuit of happiness. Because if we're constantly just pursuing happiness, then it's hard to get lost on the journey, or it's easy to get lost on the journey. It's hard to maintain motivation on the journey if the journey itself doesn't make you happy. I think about this, I think one of the best ways that I thought about this was actually when it comes to like reading a book. It's very hard to read a book about something that you're not interested in, something that doesn't drive you, something you're not passionate about. Whether it be fiction or nonfiction, doesn't matter. If you're not into it, you're going to have a hard time making it work. And if you are into it, then it's very easy. Then the pages fly. I remember I was reading a book, it's actually up there, Atlas Shrugged, and it was one of those things where, like, if you watch Netflix and you find yourself kind of getting carried away into the night, or any sort of show or whatever, it doesn't matter, you get it. You get lost in the show and you're like binge watching something and you lose track of time. You look like, oh my gosh, it's 3 o'clock in the morning and I have to work tomorrow. Well, that happened to me with that book. That happened to me with a lot of the books on that shelf, is that I was so interested, and that's why they're over there. Because it's what interests me, and so I've had many a time where I've stayed up super late reading a book because I was super interested, and I was like, oh my gosh, I have to go to sleep. I have to get up in like a couple hours. So it's the reading of the book is the pursuit, right? Like at the end of it, you want to have read the book, and the reading of it's the pursuing, but the enjoyment and pleasure you get out of it is way greater in the process of reading than it is having read. Where it's almost kind of flip-flopped if you think about it with writing. For a lot of people, I've heard that. I don't particularly mind writing, I guess, the way that a lot of people do, but You hear frequently from people that write that it's much better to have written than it is to write. Like it's a much better feeling. A lot of people don't enjoy that process, which I get it. But you really have to find a way, especially if you're an author. If you're an author and you feel that way, like if you're a writer, if you're a journalist, like, whoa, man, that sounds like a terrible existence if that's your thought process on it. I hate writing, but I love having written. That's bananas. Like, you were in the wrong profession, my friend. Like, that's for you to have to struggle to that level every day or every time that you're working, you're going to be trying to overcome that. That's a lot. That's heavy. That is very heavy. I don't like it. I don't think that you like it, and I don't think that that's something that you should have to endure if you don't want to. It's where we make the choice in kind of what we're pursuing, right? You know, it's that helps to make the pursuit easier. And so it's very important to understand what it is we're pursuing. And so when you think about that, like the choice of the pursuit, like the end state should be something that defines part of who we are. Like, we should be selecting major actions based in significant time investment opportunities or projects or endeavors. We should be very, very particular when it comes to selecting which thing we're going to do, you know, which project we're going to take. If we're going to run a marathon, or if we're going to do I don't know what a really long bike ride is called, but I'm sure there's names for them. Or if you're going to swim and you want to swim and do a certain swimming event, maybe you want to do a triathlon. All of those are physical things. Maybe you want to write a book. Like, it doesn't matter. It's anything that's worth doing is a little bit longer, a little bit more intensive, requires more time. You know, anything like that, you really have to be decisive, and you have to be clear about the choice that you're making, and you have to be kind of like unapologetic about it. You need to decide, and it needs to coincide with your kind of core beliefs and what it is that you find to be true about yourself. Your big, large investment and action should reflect those kind of core beliefs about you. And it's actually a great way to shift if you're not in a great place, to throw yourself into a goal like that, and to start considering yourself from the perspective of the type of person that you would want to be, and to embrace the goal in that way, right? To really think of yourself as the person. Like, if I was the type of person who ran marathons, what decisions would I be making right now? Well, maybe I wouldn't be sitting down on my couch watching TV. Maybe I would be watching a video about people that are training to go for a run. Maybe I am communicating with people in a group online or in person that I know that have run marathons, and I'm interested in doing that. You know, maybe I'm just maybe I am watching TV, but I'm stretching, and maybe I am watching TV and I'm not stretching, and I am just sitting down, but maybe I'm not having the bag of chips. Maybe I'm having a vegetable platter. You know, there's interesting things that you can do that if you start to ask yourself that question, like, if I'm the type of person who runs marathons, what decision would I make? And so I like to think about it in the sense of, if I fast forward and I'm talking to the version of me who runs marathons, what advice am I giving myself? And it brings up interesting questions, because you really can. We have such vivid imaginations that you really can ask yourself that and get a kind of an answer, right? And if you can't, that's a really important time to reach out to a mentor, because a lot of times those answers can kind of get you off of the blocks, off the starting blocks, but they can't necessarily see you through a lot of like the in-depth training cycle stuff. Like, if you're trying to come up with the best strategy for training, you can do it by trial and error, but if you say you put a time hack on it, say you want to make your goal smart, and so you actually want to make this the most accomplishable version of this goal, than making it smart, right? So being just to run through the smart stuff, you guys all know, you can look it up, SMART goals, but making your goal, and when you write it out, making sure that your goal, your written out intent, meets all of these criteria, that it's specific, that it's measurable, that it's action oriented, that it is realistic, and that it is time based, right? All of those things matter. And so, and the time-based thing ties in with the realistic part. That's the realistic part is always the one that can throw people off a lot, and it always hits me the wrong way. So I always feel the need to kind of explain it. It's not to say that it's not unrealistic for some people to run a marathon, unless you have some sort of real serious health condition that makes it so you can't run. You know, like if you're missing your legs, I got it. You know. But yeah, so it's for everyone else. I think it's like you need to think about it more of, is the specific goal achievable? Is it realistic? You know, and so with this, the time frame, with this specific example of running, the time frame might be the thing you consider that would make it realistic or unrealistic. If you're like, I want to run a marathon. That's coming up in 3 weeks, like, you might be struggling, man. You might have made an unrealistic goal. If you have no training and you're coming off of nothing, it's a short period of time to be able to flip not running and not being physically active into running 26.2 miles in the allotted time, if you're looking to do it in an event. If you're looking to just move your body in 26.2 miles continuously, okay, but like I think you lose some of the specificity there, right? Unless you specify that that's how you want to do it. Like, I just want to move my body continuously for 26.2 miles, no matter how long it takes me to do it, but I want to do it in a month. Okay, maybe. Like, I'd be totally down if somebody shared that story with me that they did that. That would be really cool. But I digress. So we think back to the pursuit, right? We think back about the actual pursuit, right? And making sure the pursuit of happiness is aligned with our bigger, larger version, our bigger picture, the bigger picture of ourselves in the future, then it's much easier to align that. And if it's not aligned, but you want it to be, then looking at yourself in that version, like, okay, that version of me, what does he look like? What does she do? What does she think? What would she be doing right now? What would he say to his friends when we are out eating together? Like, what kind of choices would they make? How would they communicate that? And kind of running through that stuff ahead of time really does help you to handle it, because it's one thing to control your actions and everything in the vacuum of your home. Like, you go to the store and you choose what comes in your house. When you're serious about it, then you can make those decisions, and you can really cut out the crap when it comes to like the food or the negative stuff that you're bringing in. You can keep that at bay by not bringing it in, which makes it a lot easier to comply with your plan. When you go out with friends, that's where it gets more difficult. But if you ask yourself the question, okay, if I'm the version of me, if I think forward to the version of me who runs marathons every quarter, let's just say that, like, I'm that person, then, so I run 4 marathons a year, then, and I'm going out to eat with my friends, how would I act? If they want to go out, if they're saying, hey, we're going to go out and get drinks, what would I say to that? And then what that does is it helps you formulate a plan to come up with how to engage with the people in your life and how they're going to impact that pursuit, right? And so what I really want to do now, we've talked about, like, what happiness kind of is, and how to embed the pursuit of happiness into the larger, bigger picture of yourself. What I want to do now is take a look at the first half. I want to look at the pursuit portion of it, and I want to dive into kind of the role reversal. Instead of the pursuit of happiness, I want to look at the happiness of pursuit, because now that we understand what happiness kind of is and that it's fleeting, but it's still very useful. It's a useful injection of motivation and health benefits in many ways, shapes, and forms. It's very important to inject moments of happiness. So if you're devoid of happiness in your pursuit, it's going to, like we said before, it's going to be very difficult to maintain that pursuit to completion of that goal, to actually get to the original intended happiness that you were shooting for. So look back and think about how do we find happiness in pursuit? Where is the happiness of pursual? It's you need to make sure that you are taking into consideration like the what it takes to actually get there, right? And when you do that and you make a plan and you're following through with like, you have your big goal, then you have your benchmarks, and you have like your tasks within those benchmarks. So if you're running a marathon, you're like, well, okay, well, if I'm running a marathon in 3 months, then I need to make sure that in 2 months I can run 20 miles without a problem. Well, within 1 month I probably need to be able to run 10 miles without a problem. So in the next 4 weeks, so those are my benchmarks. So 10 miles, 20 miles, and then you're 26.2. So if I need to get from where I'm at now over the next month to 10 miles, what tasks do I need to complete in order to hit that benchmark of 10 miles? And so understanding that and making that clear makes it a lot easier. But then, so how does happiness come into play there? Where's the joy? Well, joy is in the doing, right? It's in the pain. A lot of times it's in the reflection of the pain. So you go out there and you're struggling and it hurts. And, it's one thing that I think is really important that can be very helpful in this aspect is actually keeping a journal, keeping a log. It can be a video log, and so that way you're not sitting down with a book and writing this stuff out if you don't enjoy writing. You could sit down in front of a camera, sit down in front of your phone and just record yourself like, hey, it's day 3 and my legs are really sore, but I'm just gonna get up and do some stretching. I'm gonna make sure to get out for a little bit of a walk today. I just don't think I can run, but I'm gonna try to get myself some active recovery. And what this can do is if you're feeling real sorry for yourself, then it can really help you to overcome that internal obstacle that's being created in your mind. Like, oh, it just hurts and I can't do it. When you record it and you record yourself saying it out loud, then for me, I get like this, it's like, oh, you're whining. and then it gives me the opportunity to laugh at myself, to take myself less seriously, and to be a little bit more lighthearted about like, just saying that out loud. Like, what happens when you say the thoughts that you're having out loud, especially in self-doubt, then, it kind of opens the forum in your mind to rebuttals, right? And to kind of poking and prodding and giving yourself a hard time about being maybe a little bit whiny. So it's a tool that can help you to bring in that happiness. But what also the really beautiful thing about that is so when you think about like the bigger picture, like going quickly back to the bigger picture about, your goal needs to kind of align with who you are as a person, how you want to see yourself as a person, how you do see yourself as a person. But you can't just have that one goal, right? You need to have that one, even if it's a big goal, needs to be nested within your purpose, within your higher self. And so if your purpose, if the way that you see yourself is as a physically active person that's always pushing yourself to try new things and to see what you believe your limits are and to exceed beyond them, then a marathon might be a good way to start that out. But you can't end there, because the marathon's not the person. It's not who you are. It's an exemplification of who you are. It's you living out that value, those values that I just said, out loud in real life. And so then you got to figure out, okay, well, what am I going to do next? Do I want to keep running? Maybe I want to do a different kind of activity. Maybe I want to do mountain biking and see if I can go tear up some trails and some mountain biking and figure that out while maintaining some running, but not really training for marathons anymore. But I want to do that. And so then you create this kind of this mountain range of the purpose of your life, right? The who you are, and it gives you what that does is it helps you to avoid that really likely emotional drop off that comes upon completing the goal, right? We said that happiness is fleeting. It's you don't hold any emotion forever. So when you pursue a goal and you get happy, then the goal is over, and then you're not happy anymore, and you're like, oh my gosh, well, what do I do now? Like, and so you shouldn't have a what do I do now. Like, there should always be, it should be within context of the bigger picture. So you got to think about that ahead of time. And so, in order to kind of to help you in that process and to help you inject these moments of happiness and reflection and gratitude moving forward into the next goals and stuff like that, I think that it's important going from one mountain peak down, starting at the base camp of the next goal and going back up. And it's really cool tools that we have now that to help bring in those moments of reflection and gratitude. And it is, one of them is social media, and another one is Google Photos. And what do these have in common? So, and I'm sure it's not just these two tools. They're the two that I have seen and experienced in my own life, so that's why I'm talking about them. What they do is if you're taking videos, if you're taking pictures and posting them, and you don't have to post it in photos. Obviously, you just take Google Photos and you get these kind of memories that come up. But you get memories. Like, in a year from now, what you're doing now, if you're posting it online, you're going to get a memory of it. And so if you do a series of these, and I think that it's important to kind of break it up, so you're not, because for me, it's like my mind will lose interest in something when it's the same thing over and over again. So if I'm taking a video of myself every day, and it's showing up in my timeline a year from now, then I'm gonna lose interest in like checking in what I was actually saying. But maybe I do a video one day of me talking about it. Maybe I do a video another day of me doing it. Maybe I take a picture another day of an activity that's going on. Maybe I write an actual post. Maybe I write something on a piece of paper and I take a picture of that and I post it. All of these different ways to kind of future projecting your interest, to keep yourself involved. And what that does is it brings you those parts of joy, and like I said, the pain and stuff that you experience during the training, during the growth and during the pursuit, the pain and stuff like that, you might not even get a lot of joy out of it on the initial front side. But in a year from now, in 5 years from now, in 10 years from now, when you get those reminders of that's what you were doing, like, oh my gosh, that's crazy. And like, you get the smile, like, I can't believe, like, I've run like 57 marathons since then. And that was my first journey. That's so incredible. And you get this reminder. And what's really cool too is if you know anything about memory, about human memory, it's awful. It is so bad. It's so patchy, and we make stuff up, and it's not on purpose. I mean, some of us do it on purpose, but not all of us. We don't all do it on purpose. Some of us, most of us, even when we're not trying to make up our things that have happened to us, we do it to kind of fill in the blanks. And then we also kind of pick out memories that make kind of sense to us, especially over time. As you get further and further removed from an event that occurred, you start kind of piecing together the memories that you have. And when you tell the story of it, or you're sharing that experience with somebody, you'll weave it together in a way that maybe isn't exactly that almost certainly isn't how it exactly happened. And so, and a lot of that's because we're not actually. So I learned this in a science class about, it was either psychology or it was neuroscience. I'm trying to remember which one. It doesn't matter. So maybe I even read it in a book. Again, it doesn't matter. I heard this somewhere, and it seems more official than from a friend in my memory, which is not great, right? So we're counting on my really poor memory to recall where I got this information from. I remember learning that we don't actually remember the event that occurred, right? Basically what happens is we create photocopies of memories as time goes on. So say we are going out and we're snowboarding and skiing with our family in the mountains. After that event occurs, when we recall it, when we go to recollect those events, we are doing our best to remember, but it's patchy, right? We're kind of remembering what happened. Then you remember again, and you're tapping into what you already tapped into, right? So it's like, think about it like you have like a bucket of water, and you're like trying to get a big scoops of the water. You're trying to get all the water out, but you only have a cup, and so like you're taking out as much water as you can, but you don't get a lot of it out, right? You don't remember way more than you do, right? Because you're not remembering every second of the 24 hours of each day that you were there doing it. So much of that gets left in the original kettle, and you only have these certain splotches of water. And so then you go in the next time that you go to think about it, you're grabbing a cup and you're going into that, not into the original one, you're going into the second one. But the cool thing is that you can get more. It's like it's a more effective water siphoning tool is if you're actually kind of documenting or logging this stuff as you're going. You're creating a bigger capturing tool to be able to learn more. And what's even better is when you have other people that are doing the same thing. Then you have this kind of collage effect. Then you have other people that are scooping in to that same kettle, or it's like it expands the kettle, but they're also scooping in too because they're having their own experiences while you're having yours. Unless you're like completely tied to each other's hips the entire time, you guys are going to have different experiences, but a lot of them are going to overlap. And those overlapping ones, what they remember versus what you remember can be different, and that can actually remind you of stuff. It actually almost brings you back to that original kettle where you're like, oh my gosh, like I didn't scoop that out. That was there somewhere in my brain, but I didn't have it anymore. So I'm so glad you brought me back to the kettle and I was able to scoop this out. And then I was over here in my 17,000th generation away from the original event memory of that. So that's really cool. It's a good way to do it. But if you're doing a lot of the training and stuff on your own, a good way to have that just even on your own is to be able to document it, like we said, to be able to use those things, and then those create a kind of joyful, happy re-engagement with that moving forward. And between Google Photos, and I know Facebook does it, they're really interesting tools out there. And I know social media gets a lot of heat, and kind of rightfully so. I view social media more as a tool, right? And so if you think about social media in the sense of you're going to get out of it what you put into it, kind of, and so if you are only focusing on events that you can't control, and I think about it because it seems like politics are the thing that infested social media and made it bad. So if you're only focusing on politics or things that are really big that you can't control, that you don't have the ability to even influence significantly, and you're spending so much of your time and energy there, and you're battling these other people, then it's like, man, what are you doing? Like, it's a drain on your soul, and it might feel energizing, but if you're not actually getting that sense of accomplishment, then what are you doing? It's very disheartening to see, and I know it too because I did it. I went through it. And so that's fine. I'm not saying don't be interested in politics or whatever. I'm just saying think about what you're choosing to add into your life, and think about how you're choosing to engage with it. Would that version of you who ran that marathon be investing that much time into communicating with people about politics back and forth on social media? I did it, and I don't do it anymore, and it is so much better. Like now my social media is filled with other people that do kind of video casting or YouTube shows, with other people that have podcasts, with other people that are into fitness, other people that have Newfoundland dogs, other people that play ultimate frisbee. Like, these are my people, right? This is what I do. And I'll tell you what, when I go onto social media, like, it brings me joy. It brings me joy to see other people that are out there crushing it, even if I'm not interested in doing what they're doing, which makes it even better. I'm like, oh my gosh, I didn't even realize that you guys were into that, and you're into that, and you do a really good job. Like, I got a buddy of mine I was in the Army with who does crazy awesome TikTok videos. I don't ever watch him. I'll only ever, because I don't have TikTok, but I'll see him when he puts them on like Instagram, I think is, but I haven't seen him forever now that I think about it. But anyway, but yeah, no, I would never do that. Like, I have zero interest, and even the like kind of stories that he does, like I would never, if I were to do it, I wouldn't do that. It's like a lot of fantasy stuff, like science fiction, Star Wars, and I find that interesting, but I would never do it. And it's so cool that he is. I think it's fascinating, and you could just tell he doesn't just do it, he does it with a sense of excellence, and I think that that's really cool. I think doing anything with a sense of excellence is highly important, which is why this is version 3, like we talked about, of this show, and because I don't I believe in being excellent, and I believe in putting your best foot forward. And so I'm going to continue to try and do that. I'm going to continue to bring you the best I got. And hopefully this was valuable to you guys. I really do appreciate you coming and spending the time here with me today. And if you found it interesting, please, like, share, subscribe, do all of that. Subscribe is huge. Our numbers are growing. And once we get to 1,000 subscribers, then I can start going live with my phone. Right, I need to figure out the live stuff with the computer. I know it's easier than I'm making it out to be, but I just hope that dude, we had the stink bug made another appearance. He's about to go down when this is over. but yeah, so I'll be able to go live, and so on the walks with Matt, I'm lest there be some technical problem that holds me from doing it. Once we hit 1,000, it's gonna happen, and then we can. I'm more than happy to tack in moments of engagement where we can actually communicate back and forth. You guys can ask questions, and maybe we'll even add that in as a whole show. We'll see as we grow. There should be some big things coming, some additional things that I'm gonna add in that I need to work out the details on. I'll keep you guys informed of other big changes and an ability for us to come together as a group and to communicate about what you guys are going through and what you're thinking, and how you're able to use what kind of resilience or mindset, tactics you guys use in your daily life in order to overcome the obstacles and turn obstacles into stepping stones, into something greater. But that's it for today. Thank you guys. I do apologize again for coming out late with this. There were some difficulties. I'm really hoping that this one works. But I love it. I love it. Even if it doesn't, like with all the struggles, like I love the pursuit. I love getting everything set up. I love getting the studio in shape. I love getting the cameras all turned on, and everything's really getting clean, and it's going really well. So thank you guys. I appreciate it. Like I said, we're over 5. Hopefully we can make it even quicker to 1,000, and it'll be great. So you guys have an amazing weekend. I love you, and I will see you here nice and early